NFL draft time, and here on Beat the Bookie, that means we bring in the heavy hitters. John Dill's the bad man alongside Jacob Morris, the good man. We'll also be joined by Ian Unsworth. On this show, we have the top 3 earners so far on Beat the Bookie. Jacob, last week on the show, John Eads came on the program. He lost $13. He said in this studio just a couple of days ago, he said he spends more time watching college football when he should be hanging out with his girlfriend. I say he should be spending more time watching college lacrosse if he's going to be giving us those picks, because he loses money. And as we throw the standings year to date on your screen, that's been a big trend here on Beat the Bookie. Actually, the 3 of us as our top earners, outside of Matt Fairfax, nobody else has made money on this show.
Well, it's important we don't leave Matt Fairfax out of there, but we were talking about it. Quite frankly, it's a bit of an anomaly that the 3 guys we have in studio are the only people to hit double digits. Everybody else lost, and a whole lot of them lost big as well.
Keep in mind also, I remember us being 1-2 in college football season as well, so this is not an isolated incident. But we're going to start now. Let's get right into our picks. We begin with a pick near and dear to both of our hearts, even though he tries to chirp me for my Notre Dame fandom. My first pick, Michael Mayer, $10 down on him, being under the 23rd and a half pick. You get a minus 120, so pretty good value. I think he's the best tight end in the draft, not saying much there, but also I think he's better than a lot of the wide receivers that are going to be around at that spot too. Tons of records that he set at Notre Dame, great blocker as well. Size, everything's there, and something that sticks out to be the Lions. Just got rid of TJ Hawkinson. 2 top 20 picks for them. I think he might go there.
Well, it's a great point by you. Oftentimes you don't see tight ends taken in the first round, but when you talk about Mayer, we both love him, believe it or not, coming from John Dales as well. And he's the complete package as a tight end. He's obviously a great pass catcher. He's about the only one on the Notre Dame offense, but he's a great blocker as well. Fantastic pick. I say we're off to a good start. I'm going to give you a good one. I'm going to give you 2 good ones as well. I'm going the Kansas City Chiefs, your Super Bowl champions, at plus 175. The first pick to be an offensive lineman. You look at the Chiefs team, what they were built around was the offensive line and taking care of Patrick Mahomes. You lose 2 tackles, you replace 1 on the left side, but Kansas City still has a hole on the right side, 1 right tackle on the entire roster. The Chiefs learned their lesson in that Bucs Super Bowl when Tampa Bay kept constant pressure all game long on Patrick Mahomes. They build the offensive line and then take care of business against the Eagles. That vaunted defensive line, Braden Reed's bunch, 0 sacks against Patrick Mahomes. The only other 2 options before it gets into plus 2,500 territory is they're talking about wide receiver and defensive line. Bad news for me if it's a defensive lineman, but good news actually still if it's a wide receiver. That's because I'm going over 3.5 wide receivers in the first round at plus 107, and this is what we call a hedge here. This is why we're smart, the big minds on the show, because if the Kansas City Chiefs say, hey, we do want a skill position player, we've got to get Patrick Mahomes some help, well, good, that helps our over 3.5, and the fact of the matter is I think it still hits when the Kansas City Chiefs select an offensive lineman as well, because they're talking about Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith, and Jigba and Quentin Johnson that I feel are locks, and then you get into Jordan Addison, who I think's a first-round guy, and then we've seen in the past couple of years, just last year, 6 wide receivers taken in the first round. Jalen Hyatt, Josh Downs, guys that, well, teams could take flyers on. I like over 3.5. We're putting picks together here. Smart minds on Beat the Bookie.
I hope the Packers take a wide receiver just to stick to Aaron Rodgers in the first round. But we go now. My second pick, I got Hendon Hooker over the 31st and a half pick. Just because a lot of QBs, everybody loves talking QBs when we get into the draft. But first of all, he's 35 years old. He spent a lot of time in college. So he's an older prospect, and he's a distant 5 on that QB big board. I just think that Stroud, Levis, Young, Richardson, all are so much better than him. And I just, when you get late into the first round, what playoff team wants Hendon Hooker as a first-round pick? I just don't see it. There's questions about his health as well as ACL. I think he falls deep into that second round.
What I will say is noted Minnesota Vikings fan Noah Searson, big fan of this show. Well, he's all in on Hendon Hooker. That'd be bad news for you.
We'll see. Interesting. I know Ian Unsworth's been chopping at the bit to get in on the show. We go now over to him.
Hey guys, let's talk some more quarterbacks. Dales, I'm focusing on a guy I know you love because you're a Notre Dame fan and somehow also an Ohio State fan. I don't know how that works, but the quarterbacks are the story of the top of the draft too. The Panthers traded up for that #1 pick. You've got the Texans and the Colts. They also need bodies there at the QB spot. Bryce Young is the bona fide #1, but then you've got a mishmash afterwards. Will Levis, C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson. Will Levis is the favorite right now. Look, his stats are not good. He threw double-digit interceptions last season. You turn on the tape, there are a lot of missed throws, a lot of weird decisions, and he's the favorite right now because of a Reddit post. Yes, a Reddit post. I don't know if John Dales and Jacob Morris or our producer Ethan Frank are on Reddit, but Will Levis is, and apparently those people at Vegas are too. That man just yaks and yaks and yaks on social media. Let's move along to Anthony Richardson. He's very gifted, but he can't start right away. And the Texans at 2 need a guy that can start right away. And he'll be steady, he won't make bad mistakes. He had 85 touchdowns and 12 interceptions in 2 years starting. He's not a test taker. He's a football player, and he's at plus money. Give me C.J. Stroud at plus 150, the second quarterback taken, and I think he goes number 2 overall. So we'll stay in the Midwest with another Big Ten pick. Our Midwesterners love our Big Ten football. We're going now to the defensive backfield. C.J. Stroud played against this guy in college. And so these DBs, there are 3 good corners in the draft. Not only, we're not seeing any Sauce Gardners this year, but we got 3 very good corners. Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon, Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois. Those guys are both bona fide top 10. The third corner out of Penn State still deserves a ton of respect, and the books are not giving it to him. Joey Porter Jr. is our third musketeer. Vegas has his line set at 19.5. That's way too high because there are teams in the mid-teens that desperately need a corner. Dales, you mentioned the Packers earlier. I could see them taking one at 13. Is Washington going to run Benjamin St-Juste and Kendall Fuller out there again? I think WFT fans would say WTF if they did. And Joey Porter Sr., Joey Porter's namesake, played for the Steelers, and they're picking at 17. Patrick Peterson, who's one of the Pittsburgh starters right now, might be as old as Joey Porter's dad. So, Joey Porter Jr., definitely off the board after 17, and again, you're getting that at plus money at 140. J-Mo, I love the value.
Ian, both good picks. We all are both on Reddit as well. It's an important social media platform to be tapped into.
Very important. You got to stay like the kids are. You know, get involved in social media. Also, we mentioned test taker. Not a test taker. We're not test takers here. Also, we're money makers. That's what we do.
It's what we do. Top 3 for a reason. But hey, let's keep talking corners. Ian mentioned Devon Witherspoon as a bona fide top 10 guy. I agree. However, his current draft position, 6.5. Give me over 6.5. And I still think he goes in the top 10. And the line of 6.5 makes a lot of sense because the Detroit Lions would be a perfect fit for him right now. But you're kind of looking at a situation where it's the field against Devon Witherspoon. I see he could drop potentially to the Falcons or something else, but it makes sense, I think, to play when you're talking about an even kind of spread at minus 115, potentially with an offensive lineman now a favorite to go to the Cardinals at 3. You're talking a lot more defensive players potentially on the board. Plus, Detroit has talked about moving back. I think there's a lot of value there. Give me Devon Witherspoon still to go in the top 10, but over 6.5 draft position.
I like that pick. We're going to stay defensive-wise. And now, our last individual pick here, I'm going with Keely Ringo. Plus 185 to get picked in the first round. $10 down on that. Made one of the biggest plays in UGA football history with the pick 6. Infamously nearly had a run-in with me at the college football playoff this year. The guy's just a dog in every way imaginable. 6'2", 207, 4.36, 40. And he picked off some of the best quarterbacks in this draft too, in Levis and Hendon Hooker. I just like him to go. You see an athlete like that, he's going to go first round. I like the value there. We've taken him.
Defensive backs, we're just going to keep talking about them. Sorry to cut you off. It makes sense. It's a position of value, and you can see somebody taking a shot at a guy that's been in all of the big moments in college football.
Yes, exactly. Well, now we got $20 left to spend on that. Jacob and I, we've combined for a lock. I don't know if there's anything more secure than a lock. Maybe it's a padlock that we're using here. $20 down on our combined lock, that being Drew Sanders to be a first-round pick. We got that at plus 125. Jacob, probably the best off-ball linebacker in this draft. I like this pick.
I think it's a great pick. Shocker, it's coming from both of us. We're staying in the SEC, and it makes sense. He's currently minus 170 to be the top linebacker taken. And the good thing about him is his versatility. You're talking about a 5-star guy, transferred from Alabama, and you can play him as a pass rusher or as a traditional linebacker. There's a lot of teams late in the first round, potentially the Bills, potentially Ian's Eagles even, that could take a linebacker. I love love this. At plus 125, I like him first round. I think that's a lock, padlock, whatever you want to call it.
There we go. We spent $100. Let's take a look back at our picks now. We began with Michael Mayer going under 23.5, and then Jacob told us Chiefs going to take an O-lineman. Even if they don't take an O-lineman, he likes 3.5 wide receivers in the first round. I then told you Hendon Hooker over 31.5. We brought Ian in to tell us C.J. Stroud, second quarterback selected, then Joey Porter under pick 19.5. Devon Witherspoon over pick 6.5. Keely Ringo, first round pick. We rounded out with Drew Sanders, a first round pick as well. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for you on this show. For Ian Unsworth, Jacob Morris, and John Dales, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the draft.